morning.
Morning, Melinda.
So, I remember last year around this time, I talked about this backpacking trip I went on, and I told you about how they forced me to go on it and how I didn't want to. Well, APU forced me to do another thing that I didn't really want to do. I'll tell you guys about it. But the week when everyone came up and talked about the Bahamas, that was the week I was gone, so that's why I wasn't there to give a testimony. But okay, so at school, I'm what they call an alpha leader, which is like one of the orientation leaders, and they I have a group of about 10 freshmen, and I help them through their first semester and blah blah blah. But anyway, this was training for it. And again, just like with last year's trip, I was like, what does this have to do with being an alpha leader? Like, this is not training me at all. But I learned a lot through it, and it's really relevant to us. Like, you know, when we come up here and talk about overseas mission trips, sometimes people are like, well, that doesn't relate to me because I'm here and not there. So I really wanted to talk about this one because this is here, this is in California, and I feel like there's so much that everyone can learn from. Like, I feel like I learned this stuff to tell other people, and so I'm really excited about it. So we can just go to the first picture. This is all the alpha leaders, so there's 130 of us, just so you have perspective when I'm talking about the trip. So there's 130 of us, and so this was a week-long trip. And the thing you have to know about this trip is they didn't tell us anything. They didn't tell us we were going to San Francisco. They didn't tell us what we'd be doing there. They didn't tell us anything. They didn't tell us where we'd be sleeping. They didn't tell us what we'd be eating. All I knew is that I was leaving on Monday morning or Sunday morning and coming back on Saturday night. That's all I knew. I hate that. So yeah, this is us in San Francisco and by the bridge. Okay, and this is just a random picture, but it shows my team, so I just wanted to show you how we're all in different teams. So mine had 8 people, some had as much as 12. It was really random, but they're really cool people. I like them. Okay, so so right when we arrived on the first day, we all they drove us to one side of the bridge, and they talked to us, and I think that might be the next picture, actually. No, just kidding. Oh, actually, okay, I'll follow my pictures better. So we found out we'd be staying at a Youth with a Mission building, and so this is it in San Francisco, and they open it up to the homeless community around them, so during the day, the people can come in, they can get food, they can play with the pool tables, whatever, and then there was a basement with a bunch of bunk beds, and that's where we slept. So next picture, and this is across the street, and there's a line of people waiting to get food from this building across the street. So, okay, in San Francisco, for most of you that have been to San Francisco, you've probably been to Fisherman's Wharf. It's the tourist area. You've been to Pier 39, you've been to the Golden Gate Bridge. But just below that, just 5 minutes driving, is this place called the Tenderloin, and it's where the government has put all the homeless people. So they put them all into that area. And, you know, some people think that's bad, why are they doing this, forcing them to go to this area. But on the other hand, it's good because they put them in an area where there's a lot of help. So there's a lot of places that give them food. There's a lot of food banks and distributors and things like that. But this is just across the street from the Youth with a Mission building. Next. Okay, so here's what I was going to talk about. So they talked to us on one side of the bridge, and they told us about how, kind of what we're going to be doing this week. We still don't know. But a lot of ministry and a lot of service and a lot of just leaving ourselves away and just focusing on doing God's work. So we kind of left our distractions on one side of the bridge. We left all the things that were bugging us from back home. And we just said, okay, I'm going to pick these up after, but right now I'm going to focus on what God wants me to focus on. So we all walked across the bridge individually, just kind of reflecting and praying. So it takes 45 minutes or something to walk across. But, yeah. So that's just going across it. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so right when we were done with that, we were given this paper. And, oh wait, that was on Sunday, now it's Monday. Okay. So we were given this paper, and it was sort of like a scavenger hunt. But you don't have to be able to read it, but it just has these random addresses or some intersections, like the corner of Fulton and Larkin, you know? And none of us are from San Francisco. We don't know where these things are. So we are given, it was in the morning, and then the paper just said, please return back by 5 p.m., go to all these places. And we're like, okay, all right, let's do it. And so we're in our teams, And so we're just walking around, and we have to like find tourist maps, and we have to ask people, and we're like, where's this street, where's this street? And so we're going to these places, and we're checking them off as we go, and all of them are places that are like food banks, or churches, or community centers, or like places that help like gay or lesbian people, all these different like outreach kind of things. But the main thing, this will sound weird, but the main thing I learned through this scavenger hunt was that people are generally friendly. And it sounds kind of weird, but sometimes you're afraid to like talk to people because you're like, well, they might think I'm kind of weird. But I noticed that everyone we talked to, whether they were like a tourist, whether they were a homeless person, whatever, people were generally friendly. Like, another thing, on the whole trip we weren't allowed to bring cell phones or watches. We didn't know the time at all. So here we have to return by 5 p.m., so we're constantly asking random strangers what the time is. And they're probably thinking, like, none of you have cell phones? Like, you're 10 college-age people wearing your cell phones. Like, but we're constantly asking people directions, asking people what the time is. And just, it wasn't a race, that was the thing. And we knew it, because we knew we were there to do service. So we didn't, rush and hurry. It was kind of about talking to people. And we stopped and, like, go to the next picture. Oh, this is how far we walked. I figured this out on the computer later, 10.64 miles.
Wow.
And like all around, like usually when you go to San Francisco, you go up there to Fisherman's Wharf and you just go there, right? But we went and like, I've been to San Francisco 5 times and I have never been to any of the places I went there. And next. If you've been to San Francisco, you know the streets look like this, right? So it's 10.64 miles like this. The next day I was in so much pain. Next. Okay, and this is about the people being friendly. There were these like 4 guys, just, I don't know if they were homeless or just hanging out there, what they were doing, but they had a pet iguana. And they were just like, hey, want to pet our iguana? And we're like, sure. And we had so many experiences, and we met so many random people, and it was just really cool. I don't know. But another thing is, we also didn't bring money with us. So we're passing a lot of people that were like, asking for money. And that was, a lot of times when you pass someone who's homeless, you don't want to give them money because you're like, oh, they're just going to buy drugs and alcohol, And sometimes they're like, do you have any money? And you say no, but you really have a whole bunch of money. Well, we were all saying no, and we really didn't have any money. But the thing that I learned that I think like we all can really apply to like whatever, our daily life, is that, well, maybe we have money or maybe we don't, but it doesn't matter if we give that, but we have the ability to give so much more. We can give eye contact. We can give a smile. We can give a, hi, how are you? A God bless you. A have a nice day. We can ask them their name, shake their hand, even have a conversation. Like there's so many times where I know a lot of people who they don't want to give money to someone, so they think, okay, I'm just not going to look at them and then I won't feel guilty. Look at them, smile. I feel like that's a lot of times what people want. And it doesn't just apply to homeless people, but even like the people outside of stores asking for donations, like you can say have a nice day and that'll make their day maybe even more than giving them a dollar bill. That's just something that I learned. And also a lot about humility. Like a lot of times we can refer to like homeless people or something like that as like those people. But what makes us better than those people? God created us all, and He created us all in His image, and there's nothing that makes us better than those people. So just something I learned that day. So this is just the first day. Next picture. We were also, the only money we were given, so this was a whole day thing, so you're thinking like, what about lunch, right? We were all given $1 per person, so we had 8 people in our group, so we had $8, and we could do whatever we wanted with it. We could give it to people, we could go to a restaurant and try to find something that's $1 each, whatever. But we went to the grocery store and we bought, it was really hard trying to find stuff that was only like added up to $8. We bought like 2 loaves of bread and we bought a jar of peanut butter and jelly. We got some knives from this restaurant, we just asked them if we could have some. And we had like a few cents left over, so we bought a banana. And so we sat in the park and we made a bunch of sandwiches, as much as 2 loaves makes, I don't remember how many sandwiches that is. We all ate one, and then we kept the rest in the bags, and then as we were walking back, we gave out the rest of the sandwiches. So we all felt pretty cool about that. We were like, yeah, we fed ourselves and other people. But it was so hard. We're like $8, and you go to a restaurant and you spend more than $8 on yourself. So it was kind of cool seeing what $8 could do. Next. Okay, so we walked back to the place, and this picture's really hard to see, but there's a bunch of people sitting outside the YWAM building, and so we gave out some, and we talked to them as we gave them out. And there were these two ladies that we prayed for, and we asked their names, and then it was really nice. After we prayed for them, this one lady, her name was Lisa, she was like, well, can we pray for you? And we're like, okay. And so she asked all our names, and she prayed for us, and that was really neat. Next picture. Okay, so Tuesday we went to a food bank, and again, they didn't, just our group, again, they didn't tell us what we were doing. Our leader just led us there, and we're like, oh, a food bank, okay, I guess that's where we'll be for a while, don't know how long. And just thoughts on that day were, we were thinking, this organization was a non-Christian organization, and we were thinking, non-Christians have these charitable organizations too, so what are we as Christ followers doing to set ourselves apart? Like, if there's these people that aren't even doing this because of Jesus, and they're doing these amazing things and, like, really helping people, and then we don't even go and volunteer, I don't know, that really struck me, and yeah. But then another thing is, as Christians, we have the power to give people more than just money or a sandwich. We can give them Jesus' love. So that was a lot of what I was learning this week. And next picture. So after we finished working at the food bank, it was after lunch, our leader led us to, what's it called, Union Square, which is kind of like a touristy mall area. But there's still like a bunch of people sitting around asking for money. And she said, okay, you have 45 minutes. After 45 minutes, come back here. In your 45 minutes, don't talk to anyone you know. Go. And so we're like, okay, what do we do? Okay, so we're just like walking around, and we're all, making our separate ways, the 8 of us, just like observing. And then slowly I start noticing the people on my team talking to people and everything. And this is like, the guy in the white shirt, he was on my team, and he just like sits down next to this guy, and they're just talking for like 30 minutes. And so eventually I sat down, and I started talking to this one guy. His name was Joe, and he told me his story about like how he got there and what he was trying to do with the money that he was getting, and just things like that. And I met this other guy whose name was Chad, and he just learned to play harmonica, and he's never put it down for a month, and like all these fun stories. And okay, next picture. Okay, every night we had devotions, so this is in the bottom of the YWAM building. The beds are behind those curtains. And every night we had worship time and devotion time. And I want to share one of the things I learned in devotion time, and it's from Mark 1:40-41. Says, a man with leprosy came to him and begged him on his knees, if you're willing, you can make me clean. Filled with compassion, Jesus reached out his hand and touched the man. I am willing, he said, be clean. And something that I'd never noticed from this scripture before is how Jesus reaches out his hand and touched the man. Now remember, this man has leprosy, and Jesus just touched him. He didn't say, okay, you're healed, and then touch him. He touched him, this person that was like, no one wanted to get near because he had leprosy. Jesus touches him and then heals him. And it kind of was showing the power of like compassion and also of touch. And it made me think a little differently about touch and just putting it in the context of what we were doing in San Francisco, about just really getting to know the city and getting to know like a lot of homeless people, and about they're sort of to us sometimes they're like those people with leprosy, like we don't want to touch them, they might be like dirty or smelly or something like that, but just the power of any kind of touch, like a handshake, like when you meet, like my name's Melinda, what's your name, so that was just another lesson I learned. Okay, Wednesday we went to another food bank, yay! We were like putting pinto beans in little packets that they could hand out that were like the perfect size. It was pretty fun. Next. Okay, this was really cool. On Thursday, we went to a hospital, and we thought, we were going to be talking to patients or something. And so we're sitting in the waiting room, and then the guy comes out who works with the volunteers, and he's like, you know what you're doing, right? Your leaders told you? And we're like, no, our leader doesn't tell us anything. And And he's like, oh, you guys are putting on a fashion show. And this was like the most fun day. We were working with older people with dementia, and we got to go into the hospital's wardrobe room, and we picked out ridiculous things and that weren't supposed to go together, and we made the coolest outfits. And next picture. So it was really fun. So the whole morning we spent setting up, like we put the balloons and stuff out, and then the people started coming in. And, oh wait, hold on. So, it wasn't just us in the fashion show, it was a lot of those people too. Like I got to push a wheelchair of a guy who was dressed as like a college football player, and it was really cool. So it was us and them in the fashion show. Next picture. And then in the intermission we sang. So we sang songs that we thought they would know, like Take Me Out to the Ball Game and like Lean on Me. And yeah. And that was another thing that actually took me out of my comfort zone because I don't like hospitals. So it stretched me. So it was good that it was something so fun because it made me enjoy it. So Friday was a free day, so it was kind of like a tourist day. So most people decided to go to Fisherman's Wharf and everything. And I was kind of disappointed because I'm the type of person that on mission trips I don't like free days. I'm like, I'm here to work, I'm here to serve the Lord, why are you making me tour? I'm that kind of person. But I started realizing that it was okay because of what I had learned. This was about daily life, and this was about putting what I learned into how I live, not working at a food bank, but like just loving people in my daily life. So I just went with some random friends, and because we didn't have to stick with our teams anymore, and we walked to the pier and all the tourist areas. So we walked all the way, which was really far. You guys are lucky when you drive and stuff. So just walking past all these areas that I'd never seen before, I feel like I've really seen San Francisco now. So we walked through Chinatown and just different areas that you normally don't see. Next picture. We stopped and talked to a lot of people. Like this guy's name was Dustin, and he was 20, so he was our age, and we just stopped and talked to him about whatever, and I saw he had this cross tattoo, so I remember asking him, I was like, oh, are you Christian? And he's like, oh, I don't believe in religion, but I believe that Jesus is my savior, and da-da-da-da. And we just ended up talking to him for a really long time, and then at the end, I pulled out a Subway gift card I had, and I was giving it to him. I was like, here, want this? Because there was a Subway right where he sat. And he was like, oh, no, I can't take that. I was like, why not? He's like, I would feel bad. And I was like, well, why? I'm giving it to you. It's a gift. And he said, you've given me a smile and a conversation. What more could I ask for? And that was just really interesting. Okay. Oh, one of the other things they talked about in the devotions one night that I thought was really good was about loving people for who they are and not what you can help them become. And that applies a lot to these people because we're like, oh, they have so much potential. Like if only they could, get into a job and they could do this, and then they'd be they'd be such a good worker. But if we're loving them for who we can help them become, that means we're only loving a reflection of ourselves. And we're not really loving that person for who they are. So, next picture. Okay, this guy, you may have seen him. He sits on the corner of Ghirardelli Square, and he sat there for, I went to, the first time I went to San Francisco was 2001, and I remember him there. And he's awesome because he makes the coolest rhymes ever. One time when I was 11 or something, I took a picture of him, and he's like, did you use the flash? Now give me some cash. And he's like, he's hilarious. I love him. Anyway, so I went over to him this time, and I decided to tell him. I was like, I've been to San Francisco 5 times, and you're my favorite part. And so we started talking, and I found out that I'd never looked at all these pictures he has, but he has pictures with Jay Leno and with all these other people, and he's been on all these TV shows because he's such a cool, sitting on the corner guy. And that was just really cool learning about him. And then after we had such a long conversation, he was like, hey, can I take a picture with you so you can get on my board too? I was like, yes! Just really fun experiences that I don't normally have when I go to San Francisco. Okay, next. All right, that night was intense. It was like 10 p.m. and we left in our groups, and they didn't tell us where we were going. And our leader just followed, or our leader led us, obviously. And we went to the red light district of San Francisco. And so we were walking through, and this was Friday night, so there was like a lot going on. And we walked through the strip club areas, and we walked through the gay bar areas, and we walked through all of this. And we just kind of, we weren't talking to each other. This whole thing was like a 3-hour process of all the transportation to take it. We took the train, we took the trolleys, we walked. And we just saw it so much, and we all just didn't talk, and we're all just praying over it. So that was, again, interesting experience. Next. So the last day, we were at the other side of the bridge, the side where we had ended, and they talked to us about, instead of just going back to those distractions we had left on the other side, but taking what we learned and bringing it back. So again, we all did the individual 45-minute walk back to the other side, and just taking what we learned and being able to use it. So that's part of this, like just me talking to you guys, is just using what I learned so that I can pass it to you guys, because I feel like I learned so much and grew so much from this, things that you can really apply. It's not like you can be like, oh, well, I don't live there, but it's about any city. It's about, walking outside. It's about Pasadena, about Altadena, about LA, and so I just encourage you guys to think about all that, and thanks.